All right, today we are diving deep into the world of ancient Egyptian divinity. And our guide for this journey is Mustafa Gadala's incredible book, Egyptian Divinities, The All Who Are the One. So let's get right into it.
So, when you think of ancient Egypt, what's the first thing that pops into your head? Probably pyramids, right? Pharaohs. And maybe, just maybe, this huge, kind of confusing lineup of animal-headed gods. It can feel like just a chaotic jumble of deities, and you wouldn't be alone in thinking that. But what if that whole idea is built on a massive misunderstanding?
Well, that's exactly the issue the author, Mustafa Gadala, points out. He basically says that for centuries, Western academics have been looking at Egyptian beliefs through their own cultural glasses. And what did they see? A confused, primitive system. Today, we're going to flip that on its head and explore a totally different way of looking at it. So that brings us to the big question, right? Were the ancient Egyptians really trying to keep track of hundreds of different gods? Or was there something much, much more sophisticated going on behind the scenes?
And here's the book's central argument, and it's a big one. Gadala says that far from being primitive, the Egyptian system is actually one of the highest expressions of monotheistic mysticism. Think about that. It's the idea of one single all-powerful divine source that just happens to express itself in a whole bunch of different ways.
And that idea is summed up in this amazing phrase, the all who are one. And this isn't just some poetic, fancy title. It's actually a super precise description of their whole belief system. The key to unlocking all of this comes down to one single crucial word, Neteru. Now, for ages, this has been translated as gods and goddesses, but that's not quite right. A much better translation is something like divine principles or functions. See, the Neteru aren't a bunch of different gods. They're all the different attributes, the different powers of one single supreme god.
This is a great way to think about it. Look at a single person. You could be an engineer at work, a father at home, and a husband to your partner. Those are all different roles, different functions, but you're still one person, right? You don't have multiple personalities. Well, for the ancient Egyptians, God was kind of like that. One divine being with many different jobs, many different functions, or natural.
So with that in mind, let's look at those old misconceptions again. A confused system with countless gods? Nah, it's just that the divine has endless attributes. What about minor versus major gods? Well, think about the sun. It's a huge deal in the summer, not so much in the dead of winter. The sun itself doesn't change, just its importance to us at that moment. And contradictory aspects? Hey, a mother can be incredibly tender one minute and a ferocious protector the next. They're not contradictions, they're just different sides of the same person. Okay, so understanding the Neterus is step one. That's a huge piece of the puzzle. But to really get inside the Egyptian mindset, we have to learn to speak their language. And I'm talking about a language of symbols, where every single detail mattered. I mean, seriously, every single thing in an Egyptian drawing was a piece of information. The Neter's specific job, its divine function, was spelled out by its clothes, its headdress, the colors, even its posture and what it was holding, like a flail or an ankh. It's this incredibly rich visual code. A picture wasn't just worth 1,000 words, it was a whole data sheet. This is a perfect example of how that code works. Look at Anubis here. On the left, you've got the full animal form. That represents the pure abstract idea or function. But on the right, you have the animal head on a human body. That shows the same function, but as it exists inside a human being. It's such a simple but brilliant way to show the difference. And then they'd flip it. Look at the ba, which is the soul. It's the total opposite, a human head on an animal's body. And that animal isn't random. It's a bird, known for its incredible homing instinct. What a powerful symbol for the soul, right? It's on this migratory journey, but it always knows how to find its way back home to its divine source. Okay, so we've got the concepts, we've got the symbols. Now let's put it all together and see how it works in action. We're going to look at what the author calls Egypt's great model story. This one single narrative that was basically the blueprint for their entire civilization. The whole story revolves around a group called the Grand Ennead. It all starts with a self-created being, Atum, and eventually we get down to the four main players. Asar and Auset, you probably know them by their Greek names, Osiris and Isis, and their siblings Set and Nebtet, or Seth and Nephthys. But listen, this was so much more than just a bedtime story. These cosmic myths were the bedrock of Egyptian society. their laws, their morals, their whole way of life. It was all designed to be a mirror, a reflection of these divine stories.
And the story itself is epic. You have the good king, Asar, who's tricked and murdered by his jealous brother, Set. His devoted wife, Aset, goes on this incredible search to find his body. And then, through divine magic, she conceives their son, Huru. Huru, of course, grows up, challenges his evil uncle Set for the throne, and this all leads to Asar's magical resurrection as the eternal judge of the netherworld. It's got everything. Asar is the absolute heart of this whole thing. He represents the divine spark inside a mortal body. He is the cycle of death and rebirth that you see in nature every single year. But most importantly, he's the symbol of hope, the hope that every single person could have eternal life after death. And here is a really, really important detail. The fight between Heru and Set, it wasn't won with brute force. Nope. It was taken to court, a divine council of Neteru. Basically, a jury of the other divine principles heard the case and made their decision based on cosmic law and what was right. And the verdict is just genius. It tells you everything about how they saw the universe. Huru, the good guy, gets the fertile lands, the kingdom of order. But Set, the force of chaos and opposition, he isn't destroyed. He's given the deserts, the wastelands. This shows that the Egyptians understood that even chaos, even the destructive force, has a necessary place in the grand scheme of things. You need both to have balance. So, when you put all of this together, it really asks us to look at this incredible culture with totally new eyes, and maybe, just maybe, question the modern boxes we've tried to fit it into. The author really throws down a challenge to the mainstream view. He's saying that Western academics, coming from their own cultures and histories, have kind of projected their own ideas onto Egypt. They talk about cult centers and power struggles between gods, when really they were looking at a civilization built on the idea of harmony, of different functions working together. And this isn't a new idea. Even ancient historians like Herodotus, writing way back in the 5th century BCE, noticed it. He wrote that the Egyptians stuck to their own customs and didn't really borrow from anyone else. That points to a really stable, cohesive system, not one that was always changing and fighting with itself. Which brings us to one last big question to chew on. When we look deep into the past, are we really seeing it for what it was? Or are we actually just staring into a mirror, seeing a reflection of ourselves, our own time, our own biases? It's a question that really makes you want to look again, doesn't it? And maybe, if we do, we'll see a world that's way more profound and way more unified than we ever thought possible.